A baby is sitting on the other side of the room. Maybe you are at a family get-together. Maybe you are riding the subway. And then, out of nowhere, you notice it. They are staring at you. Not a quick glance. Not a casual look around. Completely locked in. Totally still. Eyes fixed on your face like you are the single most interesting thing they have ever laid eyes on. You smile. They keep staring. You look away. They keep staring. You begin to feel a little judged by someone who has not yet figured out how to tie their own shoes. Here is the thing nobody ever tells you about that moment. The baby is not acting strange. They are doing something so advanced, so deeply complex inside their brain, that scientists spent years trying to figure out what was really going on. And what they discovered completely changes the way you will ever look at that stare again. The simple answer goes something like this. Babies stare at faces because faces have high contrast. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a lot of sharp edges, a lot of movement. A newborn's vision is still coming together, so they naturally get pulled toward things that give their eyes something strong to work with. Faces just happen to fit that description. It sounds like a perfectly good answer. It is also not correct. Here is how we know that. Researchers placed 2 images in front of newborns at the same time. One was a human face. The other was a non-face pattern that had the exact same level of visual contrast, same edges, same level of detail, same brightness. Every single thing the visual stimulation theory says should matter was perfectly matched. The baby still chose the face. Every single time. Something inside them was not reacting to the contrast. It was reacting to the face itself. Which means there has to be something already working inside the infant brain that recognizes what a face is, before anyone ever showed them one. In 2002, a team led by Teresa Ferroni at the University of Padua brought in a group of human newborns for a study. Not 6-month-olds. Not 3-month-olds. Actual newborns, between 2 and 5 days old. They showed them pairs of faces, one where the eyes were looking straight at them, and one where the eyes were turned away. And those newborns consistently and reliably turned toward the face that was looking directly at them. 2 to 5 days old. They had not learned what faces were. They had not learned what eye contact meant. They had not had enough time to learn anything at all. And yet something inside the brain already understood that a face looking right at you is completely different from one that is not. The team did not stop at behavior. They also measured the brain's electrical activity and found that direct eye contact produced a noticeably stronger response in the brain. The wiring was already in place. Not being built. Already there. This is a subcortical response. It happens below the level of conscious thought, through a pathway that completely skips the cortex. Your baby does not choose to stare at a face. The stare just happens. It is baked into the structure of the brain. It showed up the same day they did. For a long time, researchers assumed that the more advanced face processing adults do, the kind that takes place in the cortex, the part of the brain responsible for thinking, would need years to develop. You would have to spend years looking at faces before the brain would carve out a dedicated area just to handle them. Then in 2022, a team at MIT put that assumption directly to the test. Heather Kosikowski and Rebecca Sachs from MIT's McGovern Institute for Brain Research used fMRI to scan the brains of awake infants between 2 and 9 months old. Real brain imaging. They showed the babies video clips of faces, bodies, objects, and outdoor scenes. Then they looked for which parts of the brain responded selectively to faces. What they found pushed the entire field to rethink nearly everything it believed. The fusiform face area, the exact region of the visual cortex that adults rely on to process faces, was already active and already responding selectively to faces in infants as young as 2 months old. Not a rough early version of it. The same region, sitting in the same spot, doing the same work. Kosikowski noted that the data made infant brains look far more similar to adult brains, in more ways, and far earlier, than anyone had anticipated. The powerful machinery the brain uses to read faces is not something your baby slowly builds over time. In the ways that matter most, they came ready. So the circuit is there. The brain region is there. But why does your baby stare at certain faces longer than others? Why the intense focus on a stranger with a beard, or your grandmother, or someone with unusually expressive eyes? Here is what the brain is actually doing during that long stare. It is running calculations. Research going back to Judith Langlois and her team in developmental psychology showed that infants do not simply prefer faces in general, they prefer faces that line up with a mental average. The brain builds an internal template of what a typical human face looks like, and it compares every new face it sees against that template. A face that fits the average gets processed quickly and smoothly. A face that does not match, unusual features, an unfamiliar arrangement, something unexpected, requires more processing time. The long stare is not admiration. It is not bewilderment. It is your baby's brain doing careful, precise work, updating its picture of what human faces can look like. That stranger with the beard is not confusing your baby. Your baby is storing new information. They are not being impolite. They are on the job. And here is where this stops being just fascinating and starts being something you genuinely need to understand. In 2022, researchers at Utrecht University looked closely at how infant gaze toward faces connects to what unfolds several months down the line. The results were striking. Babies who spent more time looking at the eyes in faces at 5 months of age had noticeably larger vocabularies by the time they reached 14 months. The face your baby is studying is not just socially interesting to them. It is how they are picking up language. When they fix on your eyes, they are reading your emotions, your focus, your intentions. When their gaze drops to your mouth while you speak, they are learning how sounds are shaped and made. Every face-to-face moment you share with your baby is not a quiet, still interaction. It is an active transfer of information. And you are the single most important source of that information they have. Your face is not just one of many things in your baby's world. It is the main thing. It is the most layered, most information-packed, most significant thing they will come across in their entire first year of life. Nothing else even comes close. Now, most babies do this naturally, without any prompting. But a smaller number show a different pattern. Less interest in direct eye contact, less time spent focused on the eyes specifically, or a tendency to look at objects in situations where other babies look at faces. A 2025 longitudinal study led by researchers at McMaster University, published in Child Development, followed infants from 3 months all the way to 7 years of age. They found that reduced interest in direct gaze and in the eyes during infancy was connected to differences in social and cognitive development at age 4 and 7, including adaptive behavior and the ability to understand other people's thoughts and feelings. It is important to say this clearly, variation is completely normal. Not every baby stares at every face in the same way. A lot of things shape how much a baby looks at faces, their personality, how tired they are, how much stimulation they have already taken in. One observation on one day tells you nothing on its own. But if something in your gut has been quietly telling you that your baby seems persistently uninterested in faces, in eyes, in back and forth connection, listen to that feeling. Bring it up with your pediatrician. Getting support early, when it is needed, is nothing to be afraid of. It is one of the most meaningful things you can do. The window for early help with social development is real, and finding something early will always be better than waiting and wondering. Trust what you are seeing. Nobody is watching your baby more carefully than you are. Here is what I want you to carry with you after hearing all of this. The next time your baby locks eyes with a stranger and simply will not look away, you now know what is actually happening. A brain that arrived already wired to seek out human faces is running one of its most fundamental programs. It is asking, who is this person? Are they safe? What can their face teach me? And when that baby turns those eyes on you, their parent, their caregiver, the face they have spent more time studying than any other face in the world, let that land. You are not simply a face they know. You are the face their entire social brain was shaped around. Every time you meet their gaze, hold it, speak to their face, respond to what they show you, you are giving that brain exactly what it was built to receive. Not a toy. Not a screen. Not a mobile hanging from the ceiling. You. If this shifted the way you see your baby stare, go ahead and hit subscribe. We go this deep every single week. And drop a comment and tell me, whose face does your baby stare at the longest? Is it yours, or does your baby have someone else completely locked in?